Hello, good morning, children. After a long time, again we are going to classes, online classes. Today, in this video, I am going to explain class 8 civics, chapter 4, understanding laws. Let's see. You may be familiar with some laws such as those that specify the age of marriage. The age of marriage. Of course, we are knowing of some laws. Only few laws we know. So here they are telling about the age of marriage. At what age we should marry? Okay. For girls after completing 18 years and boys for 21 years. So this we know. Okay. The age of marriage. The age at which a person can vote. So at what age we can vote? After completing 18 years. You know, already in the class 6th, 7th, you know, universal adult franchise. The constitution have given the right that the person who has completed the age of 18, irrespective of their caste, religion, gender, they are eligible to vote. And perhaps even the laws dealing with buying and selling of the property. So, if we want to buy some properties and if we want to sell our properties, what the laws should be involved in that, in selling a land or buying a land. These all we should know a little bit. Completely we don't know, but a little bit we know. We now know that the parliamentary is in charge of making laws. So, all these laws, who are the in charge? Parliament. Parliament is the in charge of making laws. Parliament is in charge. That means Parliament makes all these laws. Okay. Parliament makes all these laws. Do these laws apply to everyone? How do new laws come into being? So, whatever these laws, all these applicable to all the people? Yes, definitely, of course. These laws will apply to all the citizens of India. And do these laws apply to everyone? How do new laws come into being? So, some laws were already done. What about the new laws? How they will come? Could there be laws that are unpopular or controversial? So, is there any laws that are unpopular? That means people are not knowing, not aware of that, and controversial. That means brought so much disputes, quarrels like that. Any controversial laws are there? What should we as citizens do under such circumstances? So, in the circumstances, if we face any difficulty, any problem under those circumstances, what we have to do as a citizen, let's learn in this chapter. Okay. So, here they have asked you, the first question, do laws apply to all? Do laws apply to all? Okay, this is the question which arises in your mind. Let's see that. Here they have given one situation. What was the situation? I will read. See. A government official helps his son go into hiding. So here a government official helps his son to go into hiding. Why? Why he is making like that? See. Because his son has been given a 10-year jail sentence. So here the government official, a government officer is there and he has a son and he was given 10 years jail. Okay. So what this officer was doing, he is making his son hiding. Okay. From the imprisonment. So, this punishment was given by whom? Jail sentence by a district court for a crime that he has committed. So, this son, he has committed a crime. So, who has given this? Court, district court. District court has given this. Okay. So, the situation they have given, a government official is helping his son from hiding the 10 years jail sentence which was given by the district court. Okay, for what he has done? He has committed a crime. Do you think that the government official's actions were right? What were the actions here? Government official he is doing? He is hiding. So, after observing this, the action of this government officer, what he was doing, he was helping his son from hiding the crime, from the punishment. Is it correct? Should his son be exempt from the law just because his father is economically and politically powerful? As he was government official, he was economically and politically powerful. For that reason, can he be excused? Can he be exempted from the punishment what was given by the court? Is it correct? No. What we learned in class 6 and in your study civics lessons, whoever it may be, either a president or a common man, all are equal before the law. Everyone has to obey the law. So, these government officials' actions were injustice. So, his actions were not good. The above is a clear of the violation of law. So, his actions were violation of law. His actions were violation of law. Okay. That means for this action also, this government officer also should be punished. As you read in Unit 1, members of the Constituent Assembly were agreed there should be no arbitrary exercise of power in independent India. What the Constituent Assembly said, government official, of course whoever it may be, in the Constituent Assembly they have agreed that they will accept the law. So, under that, how it could be? As being a government officer, how he can save his son from the punishment given by the court? This is not correct. And they should not exercise, they should not misuse the power. They, therefore, instituted several provisions in the Constitution that would establish the rule of law. So, this type of situations, incidents should not occur. For that only, our constitution makers, they have applied some laws. They have instituted several provisions in the constitution. The most important of these was that all persons in India are equal before the law. So, first point, what they have said, all persons in India, they are equal before the law. The law cannot discriminate between persons on the basis of their religion, caste or gender. Either he is a rich or poor, either a man or woman, either he is a high caste or lower caste, either he is a person, either he is a handicapped, whoever it may be, all are equal before the law. What the rule of law means is that all laws apply equally to all citizens of the country. So, all the laws apply equally to all the persons of the country. And no one can be above the law. And no one is above the law. That means all are equal before the law. Neither a government official, nor a wealthy person, nor even the president of the country is above the law. Of course, he is a president. Either he is an Ambani or some other persons, whoever it may be. They are equal before the law. Any crime or violation of law has a specific punishment as well as a process through which the guilt of the person has to be established. But was it always like this? Okay, whoever it may be, if he has committed the violation of law, the specific punishment will be applied to him. And that also through a process, certain process will be there. Okay, that means arresting a person on a particular crime and afterwards taking him court and their trial will be there. After finalization, after his crime was proved, then only the punishment will be. So certain process is there. But was it always like this? For all the crimes, is the process is going like this? Let's see. In ancient India, there were innumerable and often overlapping local laws, but these laws came after the independent India. Of course, before also under the colonial period also some rules are there. But during that time, some laws overlap. That means they have made some laws in favor of those powerful persons. Different communities enjoyed different degrees of autonomy in administering these laws. That means whoever has the power, wealth in their hands, and they have made those laws into their favor. In some cases, the punishment that two persons received for the same crime varied depending on their caste backgrounds, with lower caste being more harshly penalized. Suppose, for example, say, I'm giving only example, children. Don't take it serious. Okay, two persons. Okay, two persons, they have committed a crime. That means robbery or something else. So this one person, he belongs to SC community, and this person, he belongs to OC or BC. Okay, so in our caste ladder, these OC are the upper caste and SC are the lower caste. So here, for the same crime, these SC people, lower caste people, they were punished severely, and OC, here the punishment was very less. See here, the crime they have done the same, but the punishment here they have faced. OC candidate faced less punishment, and SC candidate they have. And suppose in communities, SCs are more and OCs are less, means that means community wise, if they are less, here they have bad harsh punishment. So in particular communities, in particular areas, the people in less members or in the lower caste people, they have the punishment was separate. This slowly began to change as the system of law began to further evolve during the colonial period. So this type of situation happened, but when the colonial period came into existence, then there was a change in the laws. It is often believed that it was the British colonialists who introduced the rule of law in India. There was a belief that this rule of law was brought by colonialists. That means these British people. But is it? See, already you have learned so many lessons in history. Do you agree with this, my opinion? Whatever they have given, that these laws were rule of law was brought by Britishers. No. If we go through the history lessons, this was completely wrong. Why? All your history lessons, what the problems were faced by the British people during their colonialism. Kings, jamindars, landlords, peasants, merchants, traders, farmers, artisans, and then tribal people, all the people, men, women, children, all the types of people, they faced a lot of harassment. Then how we can say that rule of law was brought by colonialists? It's absolutely wrong. Okay, let's see. Historians have disputed this claim on several grounds. So this was rule of law was brought by Britishers. It's a completely wrong. Many historians, they have disputed with this opinion. Two of which include, first, that colonial law was arbitrary. Here they have said two. Colonial law was arbitrary. Colonial law was arbitrary. Arbitrary means here meaningless. This was the first conclusion they have given. And the second thing is, Indian nationalists played a prominent role. So here this rule of law bringing in this Indian nationalists key role was there. Nationalists played a key role. So the credit should goes to only Indian nationalists. Okay, this was the demand of historians. How it was? Let's see. One example of the arbitrariness that continued to exist as part of British law is the Sedition Act of 1870. So, these were the two conclusions made by historians. So, for this also, in normal they haven't said, but they have given example also, Sediment Act. Sedition Act. Okay. Sedition Act of 1870. Sedition Act of 1870. What was this Sedition Act? These all over Indian nationalists and historians, they were saying that this was an arbitrary law. Arbitrary. That means meaningless. What is this Sedition Act? Okay, let's see. The idea of Sedition Act was very broadly understood. Within this act, any person protesting or criticizing the British government, okay, any person who is protesting or criticizing the British government, whom they are protesting and criticizing? British government. British government. If any person is protesting or criticizing the British government, they will be arrested without a due trial. Okay, if anyone is rising, pointing the British government, they will be arrested without any due trial. That means there is no trial, will not be there. They will not ask you whether you have said or not. If you are criticized or not, they won't ask you. If they know, if they knew that you have spoke something against the British government, you will be arrested. That is the Sedition Act of 1870. Any person protesting or criticizing the British government could be arrested without due trial. Indian nationalists began protesting and criticizing this arbitrary use of authority by the British. So, using their power, misusing, they are not using, they are misusing their power, and they have brought these meaningless, senseless laws. So, our nationalists, they started protesting against the British government. They also began fighting for greater equality and wanted to change the idea of law from a set of rules that they were forced to obey to law as including ideas of justice. So, whatever the laws they have brought, all these they were meaningless. So, our nationalists, they fought and they started to bring a rule of law. They fought for the rule of law in India. That includes justice also, justice for Indians. By the end of the 19th century, the Indian legal profession also began emerging and demanded respect in colonial courts. They began to use law to defend the legal rights of Indians. Indian judges also began to play a greater role in making decisions. So, to fight for the Indians, what they thought if any person becomes lawyer or judge, it will be possible to bring justice to the Indians. That's why they started studying the law courses, justice. Okay, they began law courses, and they became lawyers and judges in Indian courts. That means Indian courts, they fought for their place. They have taken place in the Indian courts, and they occupied the seats as lawyers and judges, and they started fighting for the rights of the Indians. Therefore, there were several ways in which Indians played a major role in the evolution of the rule of law during the colonial period. So after becoming these lawyers and judges, they started making laws for the Indians. They started making laws for Indians. So like this rule of law has come during the colonial period. That means all the credit goes to these nationalists, lawyers and judges. These were the three key roles who brought rule of law in India during the colonial period. So this is the conclusion. This rule of law, of course, it came in the colonial period, but it was happened by these three people. Who are they? Nationalists, lawyers and judges. So this statement was correct. Okay. Now the Britishers brought this rule of law in India. With the adoption of the Constitution, this document served as the foundation on which our representatives began making laws for the country. So they have taken our Constitution, they have adopted our Constitution as a reference also, and under taking that our Constitution as reference, these lawyers and judges, they have made several laws. Every year, our representatives pass several new laws as well as revise existing ones. So, what these people they have done, the old laws which are meaningless, and if they are not suited for this present situation, they have removed, and they have made certain implementations in laws according to present situations. In your class 6th book, you read about the Hindu Succession Amendment Act. So, this is also one of the good thing what they brought. What is that? In 6th class book, you have read about that. Hindu Succession Amendment. Hindu Succession Amendment Act. Okay. Act 2005. What is this law? How it is useful? Okay, let's know about this Hindu Succession Amendment Act. According to this new law, sons, daughters and their mothers. Sons, daughters and their mothers. Okay. All these have the equal share in the family property. So, that is the Hindu Succession Amendment Act. Earlier, only the sons used to get the whole property of the family. But, with this Hindu Succession Amendment Act, new law. What is that law? Sons, daughters and their family members, and their mothers can get an equal share of the family property. Okay, this is the Hindu Succession Amendment Act. Similarly, new laws have been enacted to control pollution and provide employment. So, some laws also in controlling pollution. You know already how much we are facing with this pollution. So, pollution control laws and employment. Employment is the major problem in our India. Okay, this is the duty of the government to provide employment to the people of the India. So, on these issues also, these courts, they started making laws. How do people come to think and propose that a new law is necessary? What are the situations that leads to make new laws? You will read more about this in the next section. So, I hope till now you understood the content, children. So, what situations will lead to bring a new laws, you will learn in the next video. I hope you understood the content, children. Thank you. Have a nice day.